So in the previous video, we established that there's some myths in piano playing. Some things are not what they look like. And the first myth that we established was the myth of tone. We don't control the tone. And in that video, we also realized that if you play a note, it actually helps you to release it after you play it. So this leads us to the next important myth in piano playing, which is the myth of jumping. Jumping never really happens when you play the piano. And I want to elaborate on this because it's important. In the previous video, we established how you could play a melody with a pencil. You could play a melody with a pencil, and it would be the same tone if you used a finger. Now, let's go back to this pencil for a second. Notice how if I wanted to play this E, 1, 2, 3, 4, E. If I wanted to play this E with the pencil, notice how just instinctively I wouldn't play like this, because then I might miss. I wouldn't play like this. I wouldn't approach the E like this. I wouldn't approach the E from this way. See how that just makes sense? If I play the E from too far away, the chances of me missing the note are pretty high. And if I try and swipe the E at an angle, I might get the note, but you can feel it if you actually do this at the piano. Although you might get the note right, you don't control the dynamics. Not as effectively as you could. You can feel a lot of energy being wasted. Also, you might miss the note. If you're going to play this note with a pencil, you're just going to be on the note before you play it and play it right on time. And from the key, I can play this note as loud or as quietly as I want, and with perfect control of timing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're never going to miss. But you will miss if you go from too far away. Now, for some reason with our fingers, sometimes we try and grab notes from the side or we hit them from far away. But you can see with the pencil, clearly you're not supposed to do that. And so it makes sense that with our fingers, we're not supposed to do that. Another thing is, let's say I tried to do this not with a pencil, but with a piece of cooked pasta, a piece of cooked penne. Obviously, I wouldn't press the note down. If the object that I'm pressing the key down with, the lever, is too soft, then we can't reliably produce the tone. So it doesn't help us if our finger is too soft, right? We have to have just the right amount of firmness in our finger, and we can play the note. But again, I think these things are common sense if you think about the pencil analogy. Now, how does this relate to jumping? Well, we know that we can release notes after we play them. So if I want to play this note, then the moment I play it, I'm free to get to the next note in time. So if I wanted to play I'm not doing this. You're not throwing the pencil on the note at the last minute. You, in fact, are already there before you play it. Now, let's talk about how important this is in piano playing. The example that I'd like to play is from Erroll Garner. And this is one of the most technically difficult recordings I've ever heard. I transcribed the whole thing a few years ago. It's Erroll's Fantasy on Frankie and Johnny. Okay, gotta check that recording out. It's incredible. And yeah, one of the hardest things to play. Now, I want to talk about, it. You would listen to that and it sounds like there's a lot of jumping. It is a lot of jumping. But let's start at this part. Now, the left hand, this stride piano playing, it's classic jumping, right? But let's talk about the myths we've gone over so far.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying this video, or have enjoyed any of my YouTube videos over the years, you might enjoy taking a deeper dive at my Patreon page. The core of my Patreon page is the monthly live stream, where I go live from my studio in Brooklyn, play a bit, and take questions. These live streams are also available in audio-only podcast form that you can download and listen to on the go. Occasionally we have guests on these live streams as well. Recent guests have included Cecile McLaurin-Salvant and Melissa Aldana, and more guests will be announced soon. In addition, patrons also have access to the complete masterclass collection, which is an exclusive library of 51 educational videos covering a broad range of topics, including transcription breakdowns, improvisation exercises, and more. This collection also contains the complete Myths in Piano Playing series, as well as PDFs of all of the example material. I also share exclusive performance videos, bootlegs from concerts, outtakes from recordings, and more. I hope you'll consider subscribing. Thank you again for watching. Now, back to the video.
But let's talk about the myths we've gone over so far. You're on every note before you play it. And then after you play the note, you're free to release it. So that means once I play this note, I'm free to go anywhere. And when I want to play this chord, I'm there in advance. So after I play this chord, I'm already moving here. And then when it comes time to play the A flat, you're not going to play the note wrong because you're already there. Same thing with this. Now once this gets going in a flow, you're not going to play a wrong note. Now, you will play wrong notes if you're jumping, in the sense of if you throw yourself at the note, like you're throwing yourself with a pencil, then of course you're always going to play it wrong. But if you're there in advance, you're going to have complete control of the dynamic, loud, or, and you're going to have complete control of the time, and the note's never going to be wrong, because you're there on the key before you play it. So the idea of jumping and trying to improve your accuracy with jumping is kind of a myth. Actually, it's totally a myth. You have to be there in advance. So I think in this sense, jumping is really about rhythm, in the sense that once you play a note, you're free to let it go. You know that because you're not trying to control the tone. I'm free to let this note go, and then I'm free to move to the next note. And in that time, you move to the next note. So to get to the next note in time, you have to, one, know of what note you're conceiving to play. And then you have to understand this concept of getting there in advance. Even if you're moving very quickly, you always have enough time to get to the note in advance. That's very true, especially in the beginning of this, when he plays these crazy octaves that are really hard to play. But this whole passage, so he just improvises this. And it sounds like jumping. It sounds like, oh, I have to be able to jump accurately. But I want to say, in slow motion, every note, you're on the key before you play it. And then you have time to get to the next note. Same Same thing with the right hand. Just like when we're playing with the pencil, you're never going to play the note right if you're slapping it from far away. But if you're here, you actually do have time. Even though it's a minuscule amount of time, you do have time to get to the next note in advance. So none of these octaves are really jumps. You really are on every note before you play it. Now, the effect is that you should feel balanced and in control when you do these. You're not just... An analogy that I like is playing the piano is not throwing darts at a dartboard. You're not just, you're not throwing a dart at the dartboard and hoping you hit the bullseye. Every sound that comes out of the piano, you're walking right up to the dartboard and putting the dart right on the bullseye. You're not going to get the note wrong. And this is true especially in jumping passages. So forget about jumps, actually. You're never jumping. And when you're practicing, you're never trying to improve the accuracy of your jumps. You're on every note before you play it. No closing your eyes, throwing the dart, and hoping it hits the bullseye. And this is true if you're playing jumpy stuff like this, or even more closed things like that. Anytime your hand moves from a position to another position, anytime your hand moves between positions, you're always on the next position before you play it. So in order to be there in time, it's rhythm and also knowing what notes you want to play. But we have to get the idea of throwing ourselves at the piano. We have to eliminate that idea. And this can be misleading. Think about the idea of playing with the weight of your arm or playing with your whole body. If someone told you to play with the weight of your arm, you might pretty reasonably, pick your hands up and in fact, we've all seen pianists do this. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you do this and lift your hands up, you have to realize that it's just for show. And the actual contact of the key is right there. And when you're playing with the weight of your arm, you don't actually play from far away. Right from the key, you can play this chord very quietly or very loudly. And it's not optional, actually. It's necessary that you're on the key before you play it. So if you do this, there's no such thing as jumping. So jumping is the second myth in piano playing.